So everybody knows AI has blown up like a big meteor. The key question is, how do we implement it? What do we do as small business owners? So Joe, you've got obviously a pretty good amount of expertise in that field. What do you think are the key things that business owners should be looking at?
Yeah, this is definitely a time where business owners need to be paying attention to what's going on in the world. It's moving so fast. Now that we had ChatGPT came out November 30th, we had talked about that before, cracks the doors open. Everybody is aware of the capabilities of AI machine learning now. And with that awareness, now comes the implementation, now comes the strategy. How do you use this in your business to succeed, right? I like to tell people, and this is the first thing I've spoken in front of 20,000 people. And the first thing I tell business owners is AI is the biggest opportunity and the biggest threat facing you right now.
Well, I think the opportunity part is why everybody's tuning in, but let's start with the threat.
All right, let's get to
let's get into the conflict here right away. Why is AI the biggest threat?
It's the biggest threat. There's really two major reasons why. Number one, the ability, the leverage that AI gives you, and the ability to scale things in your marketing, in your sales, in your operations, in every aspect of your business is incredible. We've never seen this before in the history of technology, the ability to scale at this level. In many cases, it's not 10x, it's 100x return that AI can give you when you infuse it into your business operations. Now, why is that a threat, right? That is an opportunity. That's really an opportunity for you, but that's also a threat because if your competitors start doing this and you don't, they're gonna pull so far ahead of you that it's gonna be hard to catch up. And right now, where we are, that's the people, the individuals, the business leaders, the leadership, the teams that are using AI to its maximum capabilities right now are gonna pull so far ahead of everybody that if you sit and wait on this stuff, it's going to be difficult to catch up because the rate at which it's improving is we've never seen this before in history.
Well, I think that is, when we talked about this before, I called it like the steroid era on steroids. You know, like if you're not juicing, you're going to get beat by somebody who is, and then maybe that's an inexact metaphor, but it is at this point something that is kind of business critical for you to have a theory of the game on AI. And I think that probably starts with, developing, I think what you call an AI mindset, which is understanding the technology, understanding its use, understanding its limitations, and how do you go about building that type of an AI mindset as a small business owner, where you're like, okay, this sounds kind of interesting, and it looks good. I hear a lot about it, but why is this something that people need to dive into deeply right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it all starts with mindset, and it starts with mindset of the leadership in your business. If you're a business owner, if you're in the top, if you're leading an organization or a team, it starts with your mindset and how you approach AI. If AI is something that scares you, and I get this all the time when I speak to groups, is like people say, well, I'm afraid of AI, right? And I said, well, what are you afraid of? And it's usually some weird sci-fi scenario where robots are taking over the world or something. And it makes me think, and I'm like, is that really a threat to you right now? Because if you start saying you're fearful of it, then you don't look for the opportunities. You don't start to understand it. When you approach the mindset and come from a mindset of curiosity and interest into how does this work? What can it do? What is real, right? People are saying a lot of things about AI. A lot of it is not true. It's just myths.
Well, all right, we're going to get to the myths in a second. I want to start with, we asked ChatGPT what the common AI mindset capabilities needed to be, and here's what it came up with. So we're looking at it, see if we can come up with a nice nylon, cotton, synthetic, organic blend right here.
Can we go like Joe versus ChatGPT?
Yes, we're going to go Joe versus ChatGPT.
I love it.
All right, so it says understanding AI's capabilities. People with the AI mindset have a deep understanding of what AI can and cannot do. They appreciate the complexities of AI technologies as well as their limitations. That does seem to be a fairly reasonable piece of conventional wisdom. Like if you don't understand fully what this thing is capable of, is also what its limitations are, you're not going to be able to use it effectively. Correct.
Understanding AI, what it is, and what its capabilities are, that's the first step to overcoming fear, right? I mean, that's the first step to overcoming fear in anything. The better most people fear something because they don't understand it. And when you understand what it is and what it can do, then you start to move in a direction of how can I benefit from this? How can we work together with this to improve ourselves and our lives and our businesses in the world? So that's a key component of the mindset, is to come from the point of view of curiosity and seek to understand things and ask questions to fully understand AI and what its capabilities are.
All right, round 2 of the lightning round, Joe versus ChatGPT. Emphasizing data is the next tenet of the AI mindset. Obviously you've got to rely on a large amount of data. You got to make sure that it is quality information. Agree, disagree?
Data, man. Data is the thing nobody's talking about right now. Like, nobody's talking about data.
Why is nobody talking about data?
Nobody's talking about that. Everybody's talking about generative AI and how it's generating stuff and to take a step back a little bit, when we look at ChatGPT and what it did that was different from, I think, most of what was available from the AI point of view before then, was it gave you the ability to generally ask a question or tell it to do something, right? Whereas in most applications of AI and machine learning, it's very task specific. So, for example, you feed a bunch of medical images and you wanted to identify if there's a problem in the medical image, for example. Very task focused. ChatGPT, hey, go ahead, type anything you want in that prompt and let's see what it comes back with. So that movement towards a general interface was a big step. It was a big step for a lot of people. So data, getting back to data, and why people aren't talking about data? Well, they're all excited about this now. So, 5-10 years ago, there was a lot of talk about big data, right? That was the whole thing, data science. Not when I got started in AI, but at some point, I started studying a lot more about machine learning, and the roots in learning about AI and machine learning and how to develop this technology all starts with data science, right? So this whole field of understanding data and being able to interpret data and utilize data and understand that is very important. The reason why I say it's one of those overlooked areas for businesses, because a lot of businesses are sitting on so much data, even small businesses. Think about in your business how much data you have now on your customers, right? You have sales data, you have marketing data, you have data about internally, you have data about your operations, right? Social media, you have all the social media data that's coming in about people interfacing and talking about your thing. There's so much data out there. And in my opinion, business owners, they kind of stop thinking about how do we use that data to our advantage? How do we take advantage of that?
Well, I that's kind of interesting because I think for a lot of us, the technology behind AI is a little bit opaque. And you're saying that it all sort of comes out of the data science field ultimately. So how is the AI technology and the AI stack distinct from what we know in the digital sphere, like where you've got a LAMP stack, right? Linux, Apache, MySQL. I mean, I'm PHP. I'm dating myself a little bit here, but how much does data factor into the AI stack?
So when you look at what everybody's talking about right now with this with generative AI, you have to kind of consider the different areas of AI, because generative AI is just one particular area. And I can talk about other areas, but let's just focus on generative AI right now. So what we're seeing is that models are always trained on data. So let me take a step back and explain what I mean by a model. Right, so everything in AI and machine learning is driven by this computational engine, if you would. It's basically a computer program that is going to take some inputs, is going to do some calculations, and then produce some outputs, right? And ChatGPT is no different, right? You send it in a bunch of text, that text gets converted into numbers, in a certain way. Those numbers get driven into a model, and then the model produces outputs, which are numbers, and that gets turned back into text. So everything in AI and machine learning works that way now. So the question becomes, how does this computational engine, how does that know what to do, right? What is that? How was that built? And the way that it's built is you can look at it as, it's just like a formula. It's just like a function or a formula. And based on those inputs, there's these parameters. And you can think of them as like magic parameters. I like to think of them as like, if you ever go to a concert and you see like in the back of the room or the stadium, there's always a soundboard guy that's sitting there and he's tweaking all these knobs to get the sounds just right. Well, if you think of that soundboard as the model, the whole trick is, well, how do you move those settings so that when you put in inputs, you get the outputs you want? Right? And it could be something like ChatGPT, where you give it some prompt and it gives you some answers or writes something for you. Or it could be like in health, if you want to send in an image of something and determine whether there's a problem or not and indicate where that problem is. Right? That's what it's teaching. So how does it learn that? How does it tweak those, move those sliders? Those sliders are all determined by sending in data, knowing what the results should be, and then tweaking it until you get it right. It's simple.
All right, you heard it here, folks. Data is a key part of the AI mindset, and understanding it and being able to emphasize it. Adapting to change. Now, this one is sort of an easy one. This is kind of a layup. I think that, as you were saying, it is the biggest threat. It is also the biggest opportunity. We're going to get further into the biggest opportunity, but I think a lot of people are still in that, oh my God, what is this thing? Is it taking over my job? Is it taking over the world, et cetera? And I think a person with the proper mindset to be able to, be in that marketplace effectively and to use these tools effectively has to have that adaptive gene, right?
So such an important concept, just in general.
Coachability.
Coachability, right? The ability
to
learn as a human. I think if I remember the definition of intelligence, it has something to do with the ability to take knowledge and adapt to something you've never seen before, right? That's intelligence, is being able to do that. And hey, we all just went through it recently, right? With COVID. We were put into this situation where we've never seen it before. A lot of us didn't think that, consider maybe this would ever happen. And we were there. We were in the moment. We had to deal with it. And every single business owner at that time was forced to make choices and adapt, basically evolve or die at that sense, right? In a business, you're either going to change or you're going to wither away and be out of business soon. And unfortunately, there were a lot of businesses that went that route. It was a tough situation to deal with. So having that mindset of, look, the world's changed. That there's no doubt about that. The world's changed. So you can sit there and complain about it and or do nothing because you don't understand it, or you can start thinking about how are we going to change to adapt to this new world.
Agreed. I think that's one of the key things we teach at Princeton Kaizen is obviously adapting and adopting the mindset of a problem solver. And that's the next key tenet of the AI mindset is being able to understand and look at it and think about AI. How do I use this tool to solve complex problems? How do I put this to my best advantage when I'm sort of stuck and whoever I have on my team is not necessarily giving me the right inputs? How do I get those from AI?
Oh, I love this. I love that this came up. Problem solving. No doubt AI can help solve a lot of problems, right? No doubt. And that's, to me, that's really the most powerful and impactful quality of AI. Here's where business owners are getting it wrong right now. Everybody's so excited about these thousands of tools that are coming out. Everybody asks this, right? You probably even get asked this question. Mm-hmm. What kind of AI tools are you using, right? They want to know that this new whiz-bang tool that's going to say, basically save them all this time and whatnot. What business owners should consider doing, or should be doing, instead of thinking about what tool to solve, because the tools are changing and they're evolving, and a lot of them, frankly, just are terrible, to be honest with you. They should be asking, what problems should we focus on, right? Because every business, and I'll tell you, business owner, I've owned businesses, 2 decades now. I own 2 companies now. Your business experience, we always have problems. I mean, there's a list of problems, and we prioritize what we need to address. So think about the problems you have in your business, and what's the number one frustration? What's the number one goal that you're trying to achieve, right? Start there. And once you know that, then you can start working into it. And when you understand the general capabilities of AI and how they go beyond the generative AI capabilities, is you can start saying, all right, let's look into what's available right now that can help us solve a big piece of this problem.
I would agree with that, and that actually is actually a very good transition and segue into the next piece of the AI mindset, which is having a good sense of the ethics and the responsibility that come with this tool. As the great quote from Spider-Man goes, with great power comes great responsibility. Once you have this tool that can truly, revolutionize your business, but it can also become, this is from many years ago, but there was the Microsoft chatbot, I think it was called Tay, which they put out, and it was supposed to learn from people, et cetera, and it went out and it basically learned all the racist, misogynist stuff on the further reaches of Twitter, and it started to spout this same stuff, and Microsoft had to take it off the market. This is actually, years ago. It was kind of like an early kind of mishap in that particular field, but there are so many cases, and I think what you're seeing with this generation of leaders, from Sam Altman at OpenAI to Lex Friedman, there is a sense of social responsibility to it. Like these, if you look at all the social era big guns, they would go in front of Congress on a regular basis and say, we don't need any regulation. We can take care of this all on our own. You saw that again. Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey would just go in and bowl over these septuagenarian senators on a regular basis. Now you're seeing the CEOs of these companies basically saying, hey, we need to take this slow. We need to put together, protocols. We need to have, a governing body and that sort of thing. So I think any leader in this space has to have the ethics, the responsibility, of what they have under their, the horsepower they have in their under their hood, right? I think so far ChatGPT has a pretty good breakdown of the AI mindset. Would you agree with this one?
These are great topics, Chris. Ethics, it's on the top of everyone's minds right now. And as the government is stepping in to consider regulations and how this gets regulated, there was the 6-month pause where leaders in the AI research community are asking everybody to slow down or stop putting out the generative AI for 6 months so that regulations can catch up and protect people from this. It's a huge topic, but it's also, from a business point of view, there's always these two sides pulling at you. Number one is you want to be first to market. right? You want to be able to take a capability or a service that you're offering that differentiates yourself in your market. You want to be first to market with that. But at the same time, you also want to be responsible so that you don't put something out too early and it starts harming people unintentionally. So there's a lot of pressure on companies, especially the companies that are developing this technology, to accelerate their efforts to ensure that this stuff can't harm people. And there's a number of ways that they could do it. Even in the past 6 months, you can see that if you've used ChatGPT, you can see that they're putting in more measures on the back end to make sure it doesn't say things that could be harmful to individuals or give you answers that could be harmful.
Well, I'm thinking also of the attorney in New York who sent in a completely fictitious set of case law that he got out of ChatGPT. Like, there is a point at which, and we'll get into this later, but where you have to start thinking about licensing to a certain extent, because if you don't know how to use these tools correctly, you can do great harm to your reputation, to your business, to whatever. So it is important that you bring in the right people. The next,
can we go back to that one first?
Sure, go ahead.
So with that court case, and there's been several instances where this was happening. I forget what it was, do not something case where somebody was listening to audio and speaking like ChatGPT words in the court case, kind of thing. In a lot of those cases, understanding the limitations of tools like ChatGPT and understanding that there could be false information from like citing court cases that didn't exist. That's definitely something that you have to consider in a business, is to make sure that if you're using these generative tools, when you're using these generative tools, that you fact check things that need to get fact checked. I mean, even when we were talking kind of off camera, Chris and I earlier, and he was showing me some of these subjects and case studies, and I'm like, are these real case studies? Like, did they come from ChatGPT? Where did they come from? And he confirmed. You had to go and fact check these things, say, yeah, these are actual things that happen. And I have sources for that. So, that's certainly a thing from an ethics point of view. Is like, that's an ethical mindset. Is like, as a company, is you take responsibility and ownership, because ultimately, even though the laws are being worked out in different topics related to this, that ultimately businesses and people are going to be responsible for what happens. You're never going to be able to turn around and say, oh, well, it's the AI's fault. No, the courts aren't going to agree with that. They're never going to let you off the hook. So it's humans, it's us humans, we humans that are using this technology, we're ultimately responsible for it. So to be able to think about the ethics behind that, certainly important.
Well, that I think brings us to the last tenets, and I'm going to put them into one bucket, because ChatGPT came up with collaborative approach and creativity and innovation as key elements of the AI mindset for a leader. And I think both of these address the same basic idea, which is that the AI has to work in tandem with human intelligence. And I would like to point to our background here, and we're going to go into Midjourney and do a little CNET review of different tools in a bit, but this is an example of the blend of human and artificial intelligence, where we're looking for backgrounds, and we're going to go into all these different things, and we have to develop the prompts. You have to develop the right, if you want to build in ChatGPT a script or whatever, you have to start with the characters, and you have to start feeding in all the different pillars, and you have to understand there's a process to building out content. And I think properly used, this is a huge opportunity. Like, this is like a new art form is going to be developed from this new human synthetic blend, but it's going to take some time, and it's like the process of understanding how to work in this new film medium at the turn of the previous century. People had to develop the extreme close-up and the wide shot and the establishing shot and all sorts of things. There's a lot of pieces of this that is going to be figured out in the next number of years. But I do think that, collaboration, creativity, and innovation on the human side is really a key part of being a good leader in the space, having the right mindset for AI. Would you agree with that?
Brings up another very, very interesting and important point about creativity and creation from the collaboration between humans and AI, right, in this stuff. And what's interesting when you think about AI is AI, especially with ChatGPT, it's doing what we're asking it to do. And if you're very vague, if you go into ChatGPT or DALL-E 2 or Midjourney and you say, write an article on a lab, research lab, it'll go and do it as best as it could with that limited information, right? Same thing with the background. If you want to create an image of a research lab, a high-tech, futuristic research lab, you can go into DALL-E 2 or Midjourney and ask it to build that. The more information you give it, the more you tell it, the more you guide it as a human being, then the more creativity that you're contributing to the end product. So that's one thing. I mean, that's definitely something that comes up. Now, this gets people all up in arms, right? Especially, what's happening in industries right now. Like, for writers, I think writers have known about this for a while. The capabilities have been out there for a while. But when you talk about production and narrators and people that are working in movies and actors and a lot of creative types, artists and graphics designers, is now the concern is how does the AI affect them in those industries? And what we're seeing now, it's an assistance and an augmentation, right? These tools are there to help you move faster, right? To get you leverage, whereas in your brain, if you had an idea to draw a picture, you would have to go into another tool like Adobe Photoshop or some other tool, and go there and use that tool to do it. Well, now you have another tool where you just tell it what you want to do and it'll go and do it, right? It's so much, the speed at which you could do that, the leverage is now so much greater than what you had before. So it comes down to, are you trying to fight it, or are you trying to take advantage of the opportunities that it presents to you as a tool?
Yeah, I think that's a good endpoint for this segment, because I think having an AI mindset really does mean, like, I am going to use these tools to become a better communicator, to become a better creator, to become a better whatever. I'm not using them as a replacement for my creativity, but as an augmentation, as an assistant. And we're going to get into another episode, the personal story assistant concept. But that's, I think, a pretty good summation of the AI mindset. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just to be curious and look for the opportunities to take advantage of the technology, and just to continue to do it, because things are changing so fast that new opportunities are coming about, and it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time. So I encourage and hope that people see this as an opportunity more and are motivated to use it for more freedom, more wealth, more better lives, more impact in the world, because the opportunities are there.
And make sure you've established a really good pivot foot, because you're going to be doing a lot of that. All right, we'll be back with more.